Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Feet in the Circle podcast. I'm David Plumoff.
I'm Vince Wills.
I'm Sean Prendergast.
On today's show, we'll have a good look ahead to the season, our thoughts on who will do what and how the tournaments may play out. We may even discuss formats. We'll also discuss what needs to improve or change to help our chances on the international scene. And that's today's Feet in the Circle podcast. Hello, guys. How are we doing?
Good, my man. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. And Vince?
Yeah, all good. All good. Actually, had the day off today. Had some days in lieu to take, so
That's
done
good.
sod all.
And you, Sean? What are you doing today?
I am relaxing after having the vaccine yesterday, which hit me for six a little bit today. So just having a relaxed day.
Okay, that's cool. Well, let's get on with today's show then, shall we? First of all, then let's talk about then the tournaments that are going to be up and coming. Now that we've had some relatively good news with the government saying that from the 8th of March, potentially sports may come back, outdoor sports that is, so we can look forward to maybe April going back into the rankings. That's good news, isn't it?
Definitely.
Absolutely. Very good news. Hopefully your competition can go ahead and we can start and we can kick the season off as the as per the calendar. I really hope that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Southampton doubles on the 28th of March. For those that don't know, that is full, actually. And fingers crossed that event can go ahead. There might be, there will be some protocols that will need to be adhered to, but hopefully that will go ahead. So let's look into April then. In April, I believe we have the rankings, triples and doubles. I think they're scheduled for the 11th and 10th of April. I'm optimistic that they'll go ahead. You too?
I hope so. I know personally a lot is in April. A lot's going to ride on when the kid's born and what the situation is. I've got obviously a little one on the way, and it's technically about a week or two after a kid's born. I can imagine that playing a competition might be a bit of an issue, but let's have to play it by ear, basically.
Yeah, but I think in general though, the actual optimism I've got of the tournament, the tournaments going ahead are pretty clear. I really do think that we can have a successful year playing tournaments. Maybe when, again, September, October, November comes in, it may have to change again because of obviously the change in winter weathers does cause the virus to change as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. So are you two both got teams sorted for the year ahead, for the rankings mainly?
Getting there. I mean, I've got one for sure, and then one I'm not so sure about because it's to do with nationalities and eligibility to play in ranking events. So just finalising a few things. But again, a lot is going to vary for me for next year. I can't commit to anything yet.
So who were you looking to play with then, if you were saying you needed to get some sort of clearance?
So the plan was the plan was initially myself, Dinesh Sital and Federico. Federico isn't a British citizen, and I don't know if he's eligible yet. So that one remains to be seen. But Dinesh I spoke to recently, he's in a similar boat to me. It's kind of subject to availability. The plan is to play together basically like we did at the national doubles.
Okay, and you, Sean?
That's a good team. I am playing with yourself in one of the doubles.
Yeah.
Sofiane in the other double. Well, this all depends on formats, but that's the idea. And then in the triples, it's going to be me, Callum, and I'm not going to make it public knowledge yet because it hasn't. I'm not sure if this other player is fully committed as of yet. So it'll be me, Callum, and another, and 99% sure who the other's going to be. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, and so obviously you don't want to say that because obviously they're part of another team. Is that what it is, or they've been part of another team in the past? And
yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't want to make it necessarily public knowledge, but I'm sure it will come out sooner rather than later.
So what do we think then of the format we're going to be? Because I spoke to Petanque England, or more so Martin Hughes, about a week ago regarding this, because obviously nothing's really been finalised, has it? We don't know if during the rankings you have to play with the same players, or if you have to switch, or if it's just a free-for-all, you can play with whoever you want. So what we thinking now? What would you prefer anyway?
Well, I think the likelihood is going to be similar to other years, that you can play with any licensed member as long as they're eligible to play for the country. I can imagine that's what's going to happen. I doubt they're going to force everyone to stay with the same teams, because it would kind of defeat the objective of how they do the rankings. So, yeah, I'd expect there to be some interchange. And you would never know, like we saw in the last couple of years, teams might change last minute depending on where they want to finish on the ranking, because they want to finish above players perhaps that they're playing with in the previous ones.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And you, Sean, what do you think? Do you think there should be some sort of perimeters put in place?
I can see both sides of this, because on one hand, I think there's a benefit to having flexibility, to being able to play with other players. But on the other hand, the benefit of sticking with the same players means that you get some level of consistency throughout the tournament. So if you do end up going to major championships, you've already got that, you've already built that team ethos. Instead of swapping from one team to another. But I would imagine that by default that will kind of happen anyway in the triples. I'd be very surprised if triples teams change much over the 3 triples tournaments. But if I'm perfectly honest, I won't mind it either way, if they do it either way. I guess if they say that you have to play in the same teams, that could be problematic, because if people have got, I don't know, can't make one of the tournaments, got a holiday, got another commitment, then that kind of puts a kibosh on them entering that competition. So I would assume that, like Vince, they'll do it like they have previous years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not totally against having the rankings where you must play with different people every time. I suppose that creates a more variant ranking like order. So obviously, if you play with the same people, then you're going to get the same ranking points as those people. So, by definition, you'll have the same like triple 3 players in the same positions. But yeah, personally, I think we're all just looking forward to playing. I don't think we care too much if it's one way or the other. We just want to get back out and start throwing ball again.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just more out of curiosity. Like you say, I can't say I would kick up a fuss either way for sure, but I'll also be interested to see what they're going to do with the rankings in terms of, and I guess these things will be finalised beforehand, but in terms of, are they going to pick do the top 3 get automatic? Will it be on merit, automatic selection, if you like? Yeah. Will it be the top 4? All those types of questions, and whether the rankings will just be for the Europeans, will they be for the Europeans in the world, will they be for the doubles, mixed doubles and singles? All those types of things need to be finalised, because with the rankings, you've got 3 triples events, you've got 2 doubles and a singles. How are they going to use those rankings to select for the various different tournaments that will come up this year, but also probably early 2022 as well?
Yeah, I think there's no singles or doubles championships this year, is there? Europeans?
No, I think it's 2022, isn't it?
And do you know when it is in 2022?
Normally it's early-ish in the year. I mean, it could change, but normally it's April time, isn't it? I think.
So they will need those scores from. Yeah, otherwise you just well do a load of triples, haven't you?
Yeah.
No, and obviously the first ranking events, the doubles and the triples, both men and women, are at Leicester Petanque Club, which I think is that new purpose-built terrains that John Edmondson and co have put together. So that'd be interesting to use somewhere new for everyone, really, where everyone will be going there without any, well, obviously apart from the locals, will be going there without any idea of the terrain. So that's something to think about. Me personally, I'm playing with Jack Blows and Matt Everston in the triple, so I'm really happy with that and looking forward to that. And then with yourself, Sean, and Jack in the doubles. Probably, I think I'm playing the titles doubles with Jack, and then the first doubles with your good self. Like I say, I'm really just excited about playing. The news that was presented to us by the government is something that is really Sean. What you, it's really sorry, Sean was just going dormless again, and I just couldn't help myself but laugh. But yeah, I'm just really looking forward to the season ahead. There's been talk as well about doing a national mixed triples. What's your thoughts on those?
I'd like that. I think it'd be, to be honest, any competition right now, I'd take on anything. But I'd be interested to see how they do the mixed, if they're going to have it completely open where you can have 2 females, 1 male, or if it's going to be 2 males and 1 female, which in terms of ratio of members would make the most sense, right? Because then we can spread the ladies across the teams and have more entries.
Yeah, I like the idea of a mixed triples. I think that's a really good idea. And also it creates another national title, which is not a bad thing. Gives a bit more competitiveness to play for. I'd be all in favour of that, definitely.
It also creates probably new dynamics as well, and people playing with people that they wouldn't usually get the opportunity to play with, because apart from the mixed doubles, I mean, and usually the same people play with the same people in that as well. So it'd just be something different, I think. I wouldn't replace anything, though. I know there's been talk of replacing the mixed doubles, but I think keep that and just add an extra to the calendar, personally. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the mixed doubles has been successful for many years, so can't see any benefit of scrapping it, to be perfectly honest. So you could just add it. And also, I think it benefits both the male and female players to have that different dynamic, for sure. I think it'd be a really interesting competition to have that. So yeah, all for it.
Yeah, me too. So let's start with the women's anyway, and let's just have a look through the players that will be playing with it. Usually you get the usual suspects at the top of the rankings, like Sarah, Sammy Thatcher, Kaylee Thatcher, but one player that's come right out of the blocks in the last couple of years has been Becky Edwins, and I for one think that she'll probably be first or second again in the rankings. What do you two think?
I'm a big fan. I think her game has come on incredibly over the last few years. She's always in the mix in virtually every competition she plays in. Fantastic pointer and a really steady head as well. So I'm a big fan, and I think she should. Yeah, she should be rewarded for the level of consistency her play has had over the years. So, like I say, I think she will be there or thereabouts again. I have no doubt. At the very least, she'll be in the top 6. Like you say, I think there's a very strong possibility she'll be in the top 2. But at the very least, I'd expect her to be in the top 6.
She's solidified herself now. She's going to have. She's now playing with strong players as well that are going to be consistently up there. So she's going to solidify her position in that top 6, and she's got a real willingness to improve from what I've seen from a distance. Like, she's competitive. She plays with no fear whatsoever, but she's also keen to keep getting better. And like you said, Sean, her pointing is very good, but it's so much. Like, even over the last 2 years, when she was lifting it and throwing like semi-lobbing or lobbing at Gravesend, there was so much more control, and like she was really picking her spots to a T. Whereas in the past she was playing a lot more percentage, and now she can really pick a ball out.
Absolutely.
Spot out. Sorry, when she's bombed it.
I think she deserves her chance at a major championship, personally.
Absolutely.
And hopefully she grasps it. I suppose if I was being really nitpicky, and again, you've got to remember I am a big fan, so I'm not saying anything derogatory at all. But I suppose when she gets to that stage of a major championship, and I'm sure she will, but the one thing that she probably needs to work on is her shooting, I guess, because her pointing is pretty awesome, to be honest, and just improving on that shooting aspect, and she'll be a top player for years to come, I'm sure.
On the subject of female players, what's the latest with Kaylee Thatcher? She seemed to have dropped off the ball scene a bit in the last couple of years. I haven't seen her as much. I don't know if Callum's got her locked up in an attic or something, but
I No, both the Thatcher sisters haven't really played much, have they, or put themselves in that position to go for big honours again. Maybe they're just having, life getting in the way, and they'll be back next year or the year after. It's a shame, really, because obviously they're two of the most prominent players on the female side. But I guess it's given other players a chance to shine. Someone like, Hannah Griffin has come right out the right to the front of the queue, really, to take their place. Sabrina is obviously there or thereabouts most of the time, but and I think one thing that I hope doesn't happen, which I've heard will happen, is they're going to completely disband the current ladies squad that they got through merit from 2019, and redo it all for the upcoming championships in November, I believe, which I understand.
Wasn't there a bunch of players wasn't there a bunch of players that were in the current squad that got either kicked out or left or whatever because of some drama? And Claire White, wasn't she initially in the squad and then wasn't anymore? And I think Sammy was the same situation.
I don't know all the ins and outs of that, to be honest, mate. I just know that if they're going to keep the men's side of it, which, rightly they should for the upcoming tournament, then they should do ladies as well. That's how I see it. But if they're going to change one, then they should change both. Or if they're going to keep one, then they keep the other. That's just my view on it. There's obviously a lot of variables and a lot of reasons, a lot of pros and cons to why they're feeling like they want to.
Well, yeah, but there has to be a level of consistency, like you say. It does seem a bit strange to have one remain and one change. I can't quite get my head around the logic of that. So I think that would be a shame. And I also think the women's game is going to be really interesting next year, because you have a situation where some of the top female players over the last couple of years, like Sammy and Kaylee, and of course Sarah always, then Sammy and Kaylee possibly won't be playing as much next year if it continues as it was last year. And then
Emma's on a break as well, isn't she? She didn't play last year.
Yeah, you got Emma on a break. I don't know if she'll be coming back. And then, of course, Sarah's just about to have a child, so that will make life a little bit more difficult for her. So I think what next year will bring is a really big opportunity for the female players that are on the cusp or on the outskirts of the game. And actually, I think that's an argument to say that changing the squad element of it is probably not a good idea. So that's my view anyway.
Yeah, there's going to be some real opportunities for some of the players, and maybe it might even bring other players out from the cold who haven't really been trying to qualify for England, because maybe they felt like there was no chance because a certain group of females always get that top spot. So maybe they might think, actually, I'm going to go out and try and get in that top 6 or that top 4, or you know what I mean. So
yeah, there is that possibility.
I think someone like Hannah has really improved as well. Her game has come on a lot. I know she's been doing a lot of training in her garden with Glenn, who are both players have really improved over the last few years. So it'll be a shame to take away that opportunity from Hannah as well, who's got there on merit. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Like I say, I'm just a big fan of Petanque in general. So, and I always want to see all of our levels of players do well, whether that's ladies, men's, juniors, espoirs, whatever. So hopefully they stick together and they play together, even if they disband the squad. But those 4 that were in it should stay together and go at it together as well. And it could be a good way of building that trust and togetherness.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah, and what about the men's then? There's a lot of players. I mean, us 3 here have probably got aspirations of making the top 6, but will it be the usual suspects again? The squad that the current squad have all done well when they've played together. They continue to improve and impress. So maybe they'll be back up the top again.
Yeah,
it's hard to say. I think we covered this in the last podcast to some degree, and I think Sean underlined the fact that there's quite a large pool of players in the men's, as well as several that are on the cusp, I think was what you said. And yeah, I think it's always tight with the men's, and it really comes down to which teams in the triples play together and perform on the day. I remember there was one double. It was Jeremy Huntley, and I think he was playing with Ross, if I remember correctly. And they had a bit of a shocker at Worthing in the doubles, and it screwed their ranking up. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before.
Last year, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
it's all about performance on the day, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I think it will be tight again. I think to a certain extent it will be the usual suspects, but obviously you've got the players in the squad who are going to be at a high level again, I have no doubt.
Playing together as well, I believe.
Yeah, so, the truth of the matter is they're going to be the teams and the players to beat, but I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be like previous years. I think there's going to be some different players in the mix.
What's interesting is your triples are made of players outside the top six as well, isn't it? So yeah, it could throw in. That's another two teams that should be potentially up there challenging.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting, definitely.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
we only know one of Sean's players. So.
Well, I know the other one, but I'm just not publicising.
Trying to make sure you don't say anything. Imagine that. That's something I'd do, give it away.
But I think it's, yeah, I mean, you've got Reece, Rowley, Jeremy, Jason, the players in the squad, Sam, they're going to be fighting it out for sure. And then for me, I'm not just saying this because I'm biased, because I truly do believe it. For me, I think on paper, and sport doesn't work on paper, but on paper, the team to beat next year will probably be Jack, Matt, and Hoff. There's a lot of flexibility and
there's a lot of point power, but it's a shame they haven't got a shooter. Really, that's
Well, we were going to get you in, but
so yeah, and I really don't mean that from a bias, but I truly do believe they will be the team to beat. But that, just because they're the team to beat doesn't necessarily mean they'll end up doing it. But I think they're probably going to be the strongest team on paper, which means triples wise.
Here's for that pressure, Sean. Anyway,
triples wise, I think your team probably is the team to beat. I actually think, in terms of the actual end of the rankings, what you probably will find is the player who does the best in the singles will probably sneak into that top 4 place, I reckon, because I think you'll be left in a situation where points will be shared fairly equally between the triples and the doubles, and that singles competition could make all the difference, I think.
You always get the odd surprise as well, don't you? I mean, was it last year we had Dave Winkworth and Christian Biagioli? I think they played with, I can't remember who I think it was Hakeem was their third. I mean, on paper, they're not a team that you'd think would be anywhere there, but they were there for the first half of the rankings. They were in the top 10. They were competing. And then they fell off on the back end. But
I also think, because of what's been going on with this lockdown and pandemic, I think there's going to be a real influx of players. Well, I hope so anyway. Hopefully people that are listening to this who are umming and ahhing will actually get a license and get back out. And by that I mean, like, hopefully players like Phil Claydon will, put a lot of effort in and play week in, week out. And, maybe like Greg Davenport, isn't it? Is it Greg Davenport? No.
Yeah, Greg.
Yeah, Greg Davenport. You've got Chris Peel. You've got, players like that haven't been seen regularly for the last 3-4 years. Might think, you know what, I've missed this game, and I want to get back out and play. And then that creates more teams, but more teams of quality, and that's something that I really want to see.
Yeah, and I think with the break, even if it's not, players of the past, I just think generally we're going to have more interest and entry. So that's what I'm hoping anyway. We'll see how it bounces back, basically.
Yeah, I'll be very surprised if people aren't chomping at the bit.
Yeah, so will I. I think you'll get a good number of entries, definitely, which should make the competition even harder and more worthwhile. So I think it's going to be close. But I'm going to ask you a fun question, guys. You've got to put your head above the parapet. Who is going to be the top 6 in the women's and the top 6 in the men's? Go.
God, what, collective or individually?
individually.
Go on, Vince. I'm hosting. You
I'm
go
not going to
first.
hold you to this prediction. So if you get it wildly wrong, like you did with Chelsea, Vince, I'm fine with that.
Aren't we 1 point behind you now?
Liverpool now in the league.
Yeah. I'll start with the women's then. I mean, I'm going to assume that Emma's not going to play. If not, she'd probably be included. But I'm going to go with... Oh, geez, this is hard. I'm going to go Becky, Sarah, if she plays,
If
Claire White,
Mm.
Hannah Griffin, and Sabrina.
so, have you
That's
you've
not
included
6,
Emma?
though.
Yeah, but have you
Isn't that
included
6?
Emma? If you're
No,
including
I haven't.
Emma,
I haven't included Emma.
right, you
So
need one more then.
more.
And then Sammy Thatcher,
If she
if she
plays.
plays.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of ifs with the women's game, isn't there? But go on, Hoff, and then I'll go.
Well, my women's will be, it'll be Becky Edwins, Hannah Griffin. I'm going to say Nikki Scott. I think she's going to be
Good
right up
shout. Yeah, that's a good
there.
one.
Maybe Tracy Spillett if she's back playing again, like regularly. And then Sabrina, of course, and Sarah. If Sarah is able to continue, then that's the 6 for me, I think.
Completely forgot about Nikki. I mean, she hadn't been playing for years, and she's come back into London in the last couple of years. And she started really enjoying playing again, and she's
a good player,
she's
really
good player. Yeah.
Good
I'd play with her in the Euro Cup.
Got good technique. She can play a high ball, a low ball, spin the ball. I mean, at the mixed doubles, she just didn't have a very good shooter. But
True. There's a lot of ifs in the women's game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an assumption that the Thatchers and Emma will not be back, because otherwise I probably would have them in my top 6, but I'm going to make an assumption they won't be. So I think Sarah will play. So Sarah, Becky, Hannah, Sabrina, oh man, it's too tough, isn't it?
hard, yeah.
I'll go Claire.
Yep.
And I think Nikki.
Same as me then.
I think the only difference is I've assumed Sammy Thatcher's going to be playing, but if she wouldn't, I would go Nikki as well. So
yeah, there's a few assumptions there, but yeah.
There's always the dark horse of Giselle Whittaker as well. She made the singles of the women's last year. She did very well. So
I think the ladies' game is very good. I think I think over the years, and I hope I don't disrespect anyone saying this, but players like Sarah, Sammy, and probably Kaylee have pulled away a little bit and created a little bit of a gap between them. But I think over the last couple of years, especially with Sammy and Kaylee not playing, which inevitably, like any sport, if you don't play, you don't keep your standards. They're gonna struggle to come back into it and start winning again. I really do believe that, because I think everyone else is catching up a little bit.
Well, we see upsets quite frequently in the women's, don't we? I mean, that's initially Becky when she first broke back onto the scene, and then obviously we had players like Nikki who hadn't been around, who were getting into the top lot frequently, and then Giselle last year. Just examples of players that haven't generally been in that group and that have broken in.
I mean, it's the same as any sport.
And Hannah, of course.
If you don't use it, you lose it. So I think that is a valid point. I'll tell you one player that we've not necessarily forgotten about, because she hasn't played on the in the national competitions for a little while, but there's a possibility she may come back next year. Again, it's an assumption, but Emma Coggins.
Yeah, of course, she's going to be there.
Angie Jameson.
Again, she's playing. So there's quite a lot of difficult ones with the women's game because it's assumptions. So okay, men's top 6 is a bit easier to there's less assumptions in the men's game, I think. So
the men's it's a tough one. I'm gonna go with Jason, Rowley, Scott, Sofiane, Jack, and Plumoff.
Thank you, mate. So who's that? Who are you missing out there?
But it's between you and you. It really vary on your depending on which of your two teams performs well. But I think the ones that may fall a bit could potentially be some of the Chiltern lads. I mean, to be honest, they probably are playing more ball during the lockdown than many. So maybe they'll come in with a bit more form. But it's so tight. I'm just predicting it based on the Kent lads will probably play together in some of the events. Dean Ashby's another one who could sneak in there as well.
Are you forgetting though, Vince, that the squad have to play together?
Oh, do they? The
Yeah.
exact, but only in the triples, right? Or do they play together in the doubles?
Everything, I believe. Doubles, triples.
Interesting. I'll stick with my assumption for now. I think 3 or 4 of them to shift out, 3 or 4 to stay in, 2 or 3 to stay in.
That top 6 would be very strong, so that would do well at a major championship, definitely. Hoff?
It's very difficult. It's a difficult one because I want to say myself, of course, because I believe in myself at the end of the day, and I really have a strong desire to perform this year, like I did last year, put in the hours. So hopefully I can get in there. But other than that, I would probably go with, I think Rowley. I think Rowley's a fantastic player, and Rowley normally comes with Reese, so Reese and Rowley will be in there, I think. I know a few teams, so I'm going to try and be a bit, use a bit of logic sort of thing. But I think Rowley and Reese and myself and Jack, Matt, because he's playing with me, so I've got to back my teammates. And that 6th spot, it's gonna be one of like Callum, Lombard, Vince, yourself. If you're playing with Dinesh and Federico, that's a very good team.
I'm not a strong enough singles player, I don't think.
Nor am I personally, but that again, if it's a difficult one. Let me actually go for 6 then. I'm going to go with me, Matt, Jack, Rowley, Reese, and I'm going to put in there. I'm going to put in there Sofiane because I think he's going to have a bit of a resurgence. I think.
Yeah, I think there's going to be several players that are going to be
in one of the doubles. I don't know who he's playing the other doubles with. So he's gonna be up for it, I think, this year. And I think Sofiane could be in there. Sean, Callum, Ross, Sam. It's so, as we've said before, the men's game in terms of quality and ability is a much of a muchness. So I'm trying to base it on who plays with who, and I'm going to back my own team, of course. So, and then the next couple of players, Reese and Rowley, who play together quite a lot, and they've built up a really good understanding. I think they're going to be up there as well. So
yeah. A lot will depend on peacetime players like Sean and Jack.
Yeah, that's another
with
factor.
Young ones and stuff. How much time are they going to have to play?
Of course, Jason as well, because Jason's in the squad. So it's just it's not an easy thing to pick. But I think the 5 that I said for me are, in my opinion, hopefully can really get up there. And then the other place, you never know, you might get a Dean Webb or something to surprise us. Yeah, but my 6th, I'm gonna go Sofiane for number 6. That's in no order, but you know what I mean. Shawnee P.
Oh, it's difficult because I try to look at it logically in terms of who's playing with each other in the competitions. So by that token, I have to go with Jack and Max. I think you will do the best in the triple competitions, and then obviously you're playing with Jack in one of the doubles, and I'd expect you to do quite well there. And then we'll probably do all right in the other doubles. So I think you and Jack are definitely in there. Matt, I don't know who he's playing with in the doubles. I think he's playing with Jack in one of them. So again, I would imagine they're be quite strong as well. So yeah, Matt, Jack. Oh, I agree about Saf, but by logic, if Saf gets into the top 6, then logically either me or Callum has to get in the top 6 as well, because we're playing one of the doubles and we're playing all the triples. So unless Saf absolutely smashes the singles, which is possible, then logically, I suppose that has to happen. But I am going to go with Jack, Matt, and I honestly don't have a clue really, but Jack, Matt, Hoff, and I'm going to go with Rowley sneaking in there with, do you know what? For once, I'm gonna stick myself in there. Me and Saf.
Yeah, that's good. I personally think Rowley is the best player in the country at the moment. I think, and I mean that in terms of everything. I don't personally think he's the greatest shooter, but I know he's got it in him. But I think his actual ability mentally and to play under pressure and without worrying about the opposition, he's so good as well at making Reece a better player on the piste. And I just think he's a fantastic player, and that's why I'd have to put Rowley in there. And where he plays with Reece a lot, I think Reece will be in there with him. So
he's one of the few that have a stronger long game as well. Like, I don't know if I probably shouldn't publicise this, but he's not a fan of 6 meters, and he's one of the few that I can see consistently pointing and able to shoot at sort of 9-10 meters on a regular basis.
Yeah, he's very consistent. So, and he's proved that over the last couple of years. So I would expect him to be battling it out for those top 6. But the truth of the matter is, there's another 5, 6, 7, even maybe more players that could easily have an argument for that top 6. So it is just purely.
Yeah, Jeremy won 2 of the 3 national.
Yeah, Jeremy. I didn't even think of Jeremy. Yeah. No disrespect to him. I didn't even.
I'm sure he will be up there as well. But it's a lot of guesswork. But yeah, that's my guest 6.
It makes it exciting. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
Okay, then, lads. We'll leave that bit there. We've discussed that quite a lot. It'd be interesting to see who plays with who in the triples and doubles. Anyway,
interesting to know your team, Sean. I'm waiting for that.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on then to the other topic that I wanted to talk about, and that is how can we, as a group of players, men's, ladies, juniors, espoirs, whatever, improve our game to really compete and push through that ceiling that we seem to hit so often when we come up against the Swedes, the Germans, the Danish. We do get there. Sometimes we beat them, but it's very rare. But we have the ability to beat them. But what can we do differently? Where can we improve? What can we work on?
I'd say there's 2 very obvious ones. One being, I mean, they both come down to finances, but the first one being obviously what we covered last podcast around an indoor ability to play for a big chunk of the year, and play pretty much every weekend if we could, probably if we had one, in a ballerdrome. And the other for me would be we need to get into the habit of playing in big competitions abroad. Not just France, our neighbouring nations, like in Scandinavia, in Netherlands and stuff like that. Even that, at least it's you're still upping the standard, I think, to what you see in competitions in England. And then obviously France, it's so easy to get over there. An hour and a half on the Eurostar, and you're in Lille, and you can go wherever. And play, but I think that would be a really good. If any of you can, I wish you could all see what's going on camera at the moment. But yeah, playing abroad, I think, needs to be done religiously. I think we need to be out every month for a competition in the summer months.
Yeah, I agree with that. A ballerdrome, eh? Let's get one of them in. Vince, win the lottery, mate.
I'd love to.
Vince is absolutely right. Being able to play in the winter months is a massive issue and something we need to address. But for me, there's 2 other factors which Vince has kind of covered. But we need to be playing more high quality ball, not only abroad. Yeah, of course, playing abroad is definitely going to have a benefit, but also in this country. That's why on balance, I think your idea, Hoff, of tiered licensing has a lot of merit, because it will put you in a situation where you will play against players of
Similar
your
levels.
level more often. And I think that's really important because if you're playing in competitions more or less week in, week out against players of your ability or better, then it's only going to enhance your game. So we need to be doing that more often.
London Petanque Club's introduced tiered licensing this year. I only just saw that this morning. That surprised me. But they did that. It was more around benefits of having, gold membership or whatever enables. There's going to be like coaching groups, and it means certain competitions will only be eligible for gold licenses and stuff like that. It's an interesting idea. I had no idea about it, and I'm going to be interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah, it does give you that opportunity to play more. I actually think it benefits all levels of the sport, from grassroots to intermediate to the, I hate using this word and I'm sure I'll get told off for it, but elite level as well. So I think it benefits all levels of the sport because we need to be playing more high quality ball in order to perform well at a major championship. And the third factor, which always gets overlooked, and I'm not saying there's an easy solution because there isn't, but is the mental aspect of it. Because I've said on podcasts previously, and I truly believe it, I think ability-wise, I actually don't think there's a huge amount of difference between the likes of England, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, Holland, all those kind of nations. I really don't believe there is. And I think you can look at evidence at Euro Cup and stuff like that where we've beaten these nations. A lot of it comes down to belief and that mental aspect of going into a game and having the right attitude to come out with the right result. And I think we do miss that. I mean, you're more likely to gain that mentality when you're playing these nations more often, playing these top level games, absolutely. But I do think we do need to work on the mental aspect of the sport in this country and that belief side of things.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's also about putting ourselves in the environment more. I think these other countries, they have a real commitment to the game. I'm not saying that we don't have a commitment over here, but the commitment levels that they have compared to what we have is probably threefold. They will regularly travel outside of their comfort zone and outside of their borders to play in bigger tournaments against better opposition, and will put themselves in those pressurized environments, and over time naturally you'll get better with it. It's like what you just said about Euro Cup, Sean, because this is our fifth Baldock Town's fifth time getting to that stage. Eventually you get accustomed to it and you don't feel overawed, and you don't feel like you're going to get beaten. So that's something that we must do more often. Vince?
Yeah, I mean, I'll put it into really simple terms. When you play even a high standard competition in England, when you play a really high standard, even a high standard competition in England, your shooter, all he has to do is hit a couple of balls. He doesn't have to do anything else. Yeah. Whereas abroad, you need to be carrying ball. And, I know we will see it from time to time, but not consistently. We never go into a game in England knowing that, expecting the opposition to carry. If they carry, it's a huge thing. And that is, taking it down to the simplest terms, the difference in standard for me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't disagree with that. And I think we've all been there, just not regularly over a season. We've all been in countries where the level of play, especially the French players, we've played against, we've all played against some of the best players in the world, and we've seen that firsthand, and we just need to do it more regularly, because the more regularly we do it and we're watching the opposition get a 5 because they've carried 4 ball, the next time we play them, we know we have to do that the same against them and change our tactics. But when we play in England and we're not really getting a tough game to the quarters or the semi-finals, it's easy to have bad habits and get lost in the fact that actually we need to get out of that comfort zone and go and put ourselves in the French system or whatever to improve.
Yeah,
go on, Sean.
I mean, you're both absolutely right, but if you think about it, when you go abroad, you know what's coming when you play a top French team or any top nation, really. You know there's going to be a lot of carrows. It may be a surprise in this country sometimes in games you're playing, but it's not when you play abroad. And the ability to be able to cope with that mentally when you're playing against a team that's cooking on gas is something we really need to get better at in terms of managing games in that respect. And that's where the mental aspect of the game is so important. Yeah.
I agree, and that's probably why a lot of English players, when they go abroad, actually play better. There are several that do, and I think the reason they do that is because they have to up their standards, and they're getting in the right mentality to do that. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get stuck in a rut in England sometimes.
Yeah, it's easy to turn up to a tournament in England and not be on it mentally, not be prepared. When you go abroad and you play in Caen or you play wherever you play, you know you're going to be have to be up for it from the get go. And if you're not prepared for it, then you're not going to get anywhere. Where in England, you don't have to be prepared to get through your group or get through the first knockout round, and then by the time you get to the actual important match, your levels dropped a lot. So yeah, also on a more ability-wise level, I think we do need to improve our long game. Caroline mentioned it in one of the interviews with me, and she said about she does 20 ball a day at 12 meters, no matter what. Even though she's already at a great level now, she does 20 ball a day shooting 12 meters, and that bit of practice makes all the difference long term. And that's something that I think we need to get better at. I mean, obviously we need to get better at all levels, at all distances, because we all say that 6 meters is easy, but at the end of the day, it's still no one's perfect at 6 meters. So we have to improve at all distances as well.
Yeah, I mean, being at a good level long is really important when you go abroad, for sure. And that is something that I don't think we have enough of in this country. Some players have got it, but not as many as should. But probably our biggest opportunity of meddling is probably in the women's game, arguably. And for me, the one problem in the women's game that needs to be addressed is that making the assumption that Sammy possibly won't play next year, is that I don't think there's enough of a challenge to Sarah from a shooting aspect. That's not to say there aren't decent female shooters, but when you go to abroad to that championship level, you need to be more than decent. You need to be, hitting ball consistently. And I think that's something that, from a coaching aspect, needs to be addressed in the females game. And I think if it is addressed, we've got a real opportunity to potentially do some serious damage at major championships there.
Yeah, because I say in the women's game, there's a lot of very good pointers and able shooters. Don't get me wrong, there's players that can hit ball, but I think when it comes to, I think Sarah and Sammy's level is such a high one that if we were to miss those two for a year, who is there to step up? I mean, the natural person would be Sabrina. I mean,
or Emma.
Or Emma. She's good shooters, but are they as capable under pressure in that environment as Sarah or Sammy? So it'll be good to see them really put a lot of work into their shooting game
and playing those competitions regularly next year, because I think the potential's there. But that's one aspect of the women's game. But I do think we've got a real opportunity of potentially doing some damage there. Whereas, this is going to. I really don't want to sound overly negative, but I'm a realist as well. Whereas I think in the men's game, our most realistic opportunity of getting a medal currently, as it currently stands, is probably in the tir de precision, and even that's a really tough ask. And after that, really, the main goal in the men's game is to make the top 16. If we're being perfectly honest, that's the main goal, making that top 16, and anything else is a bonus right now, I'm sure.
What about the juniors? That would be an interesting one. Particularly, actually, I was thinking the female juniors, because it's going to be the first competition, isn't it? Of the first Worlds or Europeans with the genders separated at the junior level. We obviously have got players like Ella Slade, who been a great talent for the last 4 or 5 years almost, since she was tiny, and a couple of others that I saw at the mixed doubles that look really strong. Sophie Rowley, Is it Tegan?
Jane Geddes.
Jane Geddes. Yeah, there's some really good ones. It'll be interesting to see how they do. They're getting a lot of coaching. So
it will be, and it will also be interesting to see how they do as a collective rather than with the boys, because they'll be put to themselves, and then it'll be, I mean, naturally, when you've got a female players playing with a men's player, the male normally takes the lead. That's no disrespect to any of the female players, but that just seems to naturally happen. So it'd be interesting to see how the dynamics work with the girls playing together for the first time as in a big championships at that level under that pressure, and hopefully that I don't think there's no expectations on them. There shouldn't be anyway. And so it'd just be interesting to see how they cope with that pressure, and they'll come out of it much better players, I'm sure.
I think they're going to be so professional as well. From when I was seeing the way they conduct themselves on the piste already, they're going to be really disciplined, and I think they're going to do well.
Yeah, I think that a lot of that comes down to the coaching they've had. So fair play to the people that have been involved in that, because I totally agree. The way they conduct themselves on the piste and their ability is really impressive. I played Scott and Jane in the mixed doubles with Karen, and Jane was fantastic. Really, really, really solid. So, yeah, long may that continue.
We always know, though, the juniors have a real buzz about the sport, and it's when they hit 18 years old is when that
buzz and rock and roll.
Yeah, when they come to those crossroads of, do I want to carry on playing this? Who have I got to play with as an adult? And do I really want to carry on playing this? And I think while they're young, we need to start, putting in that investment of coaching and keeping them, progressing always. So that's something that Petanque England hopefully are doing. And I know Tony Gates and the guys with the MYA do a fantastic job with our juniors, something that we never had when we were juniors. So it's great to see, and I'm sure they're going to do our country proud, whatever happens.
Yeah, the junior lads as well have got some impressive fight. I mean, we've known about Jamie Brooks for a while, who upped his game, but Bailey as well in the virtual competitions was shooting really strong.
He was a bit of an unknown.
Looks so easy. Yeah, I'd never really. I think I'd played him once at Worthing with his dad, but yeah, he just looks so easy for him. I'm jealous in that respect.
Yeah, it's very natural ability, but that's great. It's great to see it, and long may it continue. And they announced the squads today, I think. So someone like Sam Ratu has been given another opportunity. He's in the squad, and he is someone who absolutely devotes himself to the sport.
Yeah, he works his socks off and then serves coffee in a cat shop. Do you know the story about this? I spoke to him because I went to Bournemouth in the summer, and he was working part-time already, and he was in a coffee shop with about 200 cats in it. Maybe not 200.
Sounds like my idea of hell.
Yeah, it does sound like hell.
No, but fair play. And I say he's such a lovely lad, and hopefully, fingers crossed, he can mount a serious challenge to get into the team. Before we leave them, lads, before the end of this show, I just want to ask you something. So we know who the sits are for the men's who are going to the Europeans. I believe it's Europeans, or is it the Worlds, Sean? Do you know?
Worlds, I think.
Worlds, is it? Yeah, it's coming up next. Pick a little bit of a question then to you two, a bit like what Sean did. Who would you pick from the six to go to the Worlds?
Oh my God.
Come on.
So 4 players out of the 6.
Yeah, so you've got to pick out of Ross Jones, Jeremy Huntley, Sam Blakey, Reece Gould, Jason White, and Roland Jones. Enjoy. I
would go Matt Everston. He wasn't even in my 6, but I'd have him there if I had the choice.
No, what are you talking about? It's got to be the sits from that's actually in the squad now.
Oh, in the 6. Oh shit! Damn. Okay. Oh, and I swore now. It's all going to hell now.
Just went Matt Everston.
Yeah. I'm just picking a 4 to go to the Worlds.
Who gave you the names?
The best thing is, did you just go just randomly? Tourette's?
I just thought you wanted a random squad in the. Yeah. Okay. No, so from the current 6.
Yeah, they're going to be used on the Worlds team.
So the current 6 should be, in my opinion, Dylan Rocher. I will go Broly, Jason, Reece, and who have we got left? We've got Jeremy, Sam
Blake.
Blakey, and
Ross.
I'll go Jeremy. I think he deserves an opportunity at a championship, and his performance last year of everything that's going on in his life was pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he deserves the opportunity. He works hard. He plays religiously. He loves the game, and
He's
he's
gone
good
for an
shooter.
aggressive team then.
A pretty aggressive team. Yeah.
So your Rowley's going to be the pointer,
Yeah.
and then Reese middle, and then Jason and Jeremy at shot.
Yeah, exactly. I'd probably have Jason competing also to be in the middle with Reese, and Jeremy at shot if Jeremy's playing. That's the kind of way I'd flip it. And then Jason shooting and Reese in the middle if Jeremy's the fourth, for example.
Okay, mate. And you, Sean?
Oh my life! I honestly don't know.
Well, you must know.
Oh crumbs!
Sam's going to kill me after this.
I.
Come on, the viewers, the listeners.
I agree with Vince, actually. I think that after winning the doubles this year and having won the national titles with Adrian, it can't have been that long ago, a few years ago, and consistently getting to the latter stages of competitions, I think it's about time Jeremy does get his opportunity. And what a good opportunity to go to a world with, let's face it, not a huge amount of pressure on your shoulders. In the sense of England aren't going to win it. So you can go there and really show your stuff. So I'm going to go Sam, Rowley, Reese and Jeremy.
Interesting. So you've left out Jason and Ross.
Yeah, and I either of those could make a claim. I think that I've only left Jason out purely for the reasons I've given around Jeremy.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I would probably, I'll probably echo that. I think Jeremy definitely deserves his chance. I mean, there's no denying that. It depends what you want from Rowley, really. I think that's what it all hinges down to for me. Depends if we want him to go there as the glue, so he's in the middle and he's making decisions and he's the experienced head in between the young lads, or we want him there as first point, and then you bring in, say, what Vince said. For me, I'd probably have Rowley in the middle, which means I would have Sam at point, and then probably Reese and Jeremy, or Reese and I think Reese would be in there, just he's versatile, and then you'd have the firepower of Jason or Jeremy. But as I just said, I think Jeremy deserves a chance. I'll probably go Jeremy. So Jeremy, Reese, Sam.
I just think I think Jeremy would put his heart and soul into it. I think he'd work harder than any other player in England. Once told he was selected, he would be out every day, whenever he can, obviously. Practicing and really getting himself ready. My only reason for not bringing Ross into the picture is only because from what I've seen over the last couple of years, I don't think he's playing as religiously as he was before. Yeah, right. He doesn't seem as enthusiastic as he was before, but he is capable. I think he would need to just get back into the zone of playing ball again, and he has to want to. That's the other.
He's definitely capable. But you've hit the nail on the head. He compared to the other lads, he hasn't been playing as much, so it wouldn't make as much sense. He's capable for sure, but they've been playing consistently throughout the year. So, and Reese is very versatile in the sense that he can play middle. Probably he wouldn't play in point, but he could do a job there. But he can certainly play shot as well. So, yeah, it's a tricky one, but that would probably be what I'd go for.
Yeah, good selections there, lads. Okay, well, we'll leave it there for another episode of Feet in the Circle podcast. My thanks to Sean and Vince for joining me today, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.